Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another video. And I don't know if you guys saw, but last night, Kirk Cousins has officially been benched for Michael Penix Jr. It is official. Even though the Falcons are 7-7, they still think this man is too trash to take him to the playoffs. So they're starting their rookie quarterback. Very interesting move, but it did spark an idea for a new tier list video, and I'm going to tier list and rank the biggest free agency quarterback signings of the past 15 years. So looking back, it's really been more about trades, which sparks another idea for a video in the future. So there hasn't really been a whole lot of like big name free agency quarterback signings because most of the time it is through trades. So through the past 15 years, I found 10 that are notable. Now, what makes them notable is A, their name and their legacy and how big it was in the moment, or B, their contract, which was probably massive, and what that has to do with how they played on their team. So let's hop into this. I have it in order of time. So we're going to kick it off. In the 2012 offseason, we had Peyton Manning decide to leave the Colts after his neck injury and sign with the Broncos. This is going to be an easy, absolute success. Peyton Manning not only won a Super Bowl in Denver, he had record-breaking seasons. The Broncos' offense was electric. We've never seen anything like it since. In my opinion, I'm trying to think right now. I mean, maybe if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, but the passing offense that the Denver Broncos had in the early 2010s through mid 2010s, or I would say more early 2010s, is ridiculous. Peyton Manning was on fire every single fucking day. It was absolutely annoying. Led the Broncos to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. So this is obviously an absolute success. They were able to snag Peyton Manning in the 2012 offseason on a 5-year, $96 million contract. So the fact that they got that much success out of him, and you know, in 2012 that might have been a really big contract, but that doesn't look big right now for how much they got out of him. So absolute success for the Broncos here. Now moving over all the way to the 2016 offseason, that's the next time like really a big free agency signing has happened involving a quarterback, and it's going to be who backed him up in Denver, and that's going to be Brock Osweiler. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract with the Texans in the 2016 offseason. This was coming off of the year where Peyton Manning played like absolute buns that season, and then he got hurt, and they ended up benching him. Brock Osweiler actually played really, really good in his absence, and then I think he got hurt, and Peyton Manning came in the playoffs, and then that's when they won their Super Bowl. But Brock Osweiler was looked at as a high potential quarterback, someone who had been learning from Peyton Manning for a while, someone who looked really good in the action that he played. So, of course, the Texans gave him a huge contract with a lot of guaranteed money, and it really didn't go as planned. Now, I'm debating whether to put him in one of these two tiers, but I'm putting him in the complete disaster tier for how much money they gave this dude for 1 year of play. He left after 1 year. They did make the playoffs. That's the only reason why I was going to put him in kind of a letdown tier. But the like 90% of the reason why they made the playoffs was that J.J. Watt defense, and not really had nothing to do with Brock Osweiler. I'm pretty sure he got benched in that 1 year. So it was a complete disaster now that I think about it, which was disappointing. The Texans thought that they got their guy of the future. They thought that Brock Osweiler was him. He was not, in fact, him. And it kind of set them back for a little bit until they got Deshaun Watson a couple years later. And we all know what happened there. Now, moving on, we're gonna skip forward 2 more years to 2018, where Kirk Cousins, who's going to be on this tier list twice, signed with the Vikings on a 3-year, $84 million contract, which I remember in the 2018 offseason. This was a huge contract, and I think it made him, and I could be just making this up. I could be completely making this up, but I'm pretty sure it made him the highest paid quarterback in the league. But honestly, that contract really it aged well. Let me say that. Kirk Cousins in Minnesota He was a fantastic quarterback. He had over a 100 passer rating in his time there. He led the Vikings to the playoffs twice and played the best football of his career in Minnesota. And this past season, before his injury, he looked like he was the MVP. Like he was legit the MVP front runner. So Kirk Cousins played some really good football in Minnesota. But they didn't really ever do anything in the playoffs. It was a lot of good regular season play. So I'm going to put him in the filled need tier, but he's bordering this top tier right here. I just think that's reserved for people who either led their team to a Super Bowl or led their team to a Super Bowl win. But Kirk Cousins played some really, really good football in Minnesota, so I would say that was a good signing for them back in 2018. And then skipping forward to the next year, we have Nick Foles, who signed with the Jaguars on a 4-year, $88 million contract. This was, I want to say, 2 years after his Super Bowl win. He was a Super Bowl MVP. You guys all know the story. And then the next year, they actually had Carson Wentz start again. They made the playoffs again. Carson Wentz got hurt again. And then Nick Foles came in and played well again. They didn't make it to the Super Bowl or anything, but they still played pretty decent. So the Jaguars went out and got their guy. Too bad it did not work whatsoever. I mean, I think it was even worse than the Brock Osweiler signing, and I'm a huge Nick Foles guy, but it was a complete disaster. Oh my goodness. He went 0-4 in Jacksonville, got hurt, didn't do anything, only lasted 1 year. It was an absolute failure, which is kind of depressing. I was a huge Nick Foles guy. I was really excited about that. Jaguars have been bad for a long time. So I was ready for Nick Foles to maybe take this offense to new heights, but it did not happen at all. And now, moving forward another year, this is probably one of my favorite free agency signings of all time. This was like the most fun, one of the most fun teams I've seen in my lifetime because of how people did not think it was going to work out. And they ended up winning a Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, the last team to do that. And that's going to be Tom Brady, who signed with the Buccaneers in 2020 on a 2-year, $60 million contract. That's easily going an absolute success. And the only reason I'm putting him below Peyton Manning is just because Peyton Manning played longer in Denver, led them to more success for a longer period of time, where Tom Brady was just in Tampa Bay. I want to say 2 years. Am I wrong, or is it 3 years? I can't remember. I want to say it was 2 years. I could be completely wrong. I can't believe I don't remember that. I just remember the 2020 season. That Super Bowl was so much fun. Watching Tom Brady completely dismantle the Chiefs. Seeing Antoine Winfield throw up the peace sign to Tyreek Hill. Man, that was a good time. That was a good time. Let's just say that. But Tom Brady balled out on the Buccaneers in his 40s. Absolute success. I mean, the Bucs added another Super Bowl to their name off of a 40-year-old quarterback that nobody thought was going to be good. I mean, the Raiders even thought that he wasn't going to be good, which I believe, if I remember right, Tom Brady did have interest in going to the Raiders. So obvious success right there. Those two are one of the easiest ones on this list. And then in that same offseason, Cam Newton decided to go to New England to fill that void for the Patriots on a 1-year, $1.75 million contract. And this one wasn't a disaster because they Patriots got him for they got him on obviously a good contract. They only paid the guy $1 million. I'm going to put him in kind of a letdown tier. I think there was a lot of excitement that offseason when he signed with the Patriots because Tom Brady had left and they didn't know what the Patriots were going to do. Cam Newton had a kind of a disappointing season in Carolina the year before, and people thought that under Bill Belichick in a good system, in a good place, I would say, in New England, Cam Newton could thrive. He could get back to that level, and it just didn't happen. He was already out of his prime. And not that the Patriots played bad. He led them to a 7-8 record. He did have more interceptions than touchdowns. He only threw 8 touchdowns in, I want to say, like 15 games. So he really didn't play that well, but he led them to wins. And I mean, that's That's what you want out of your quarterback. It wasn't a good season for the Patriots, and watching the Buccaneers ball out that season, it didn't make things any better. So I'm going to put them in kind of a letdown tier. But I wouldn't say it was a complete disaster, especially since they only got him on a 1-year contract. So they already knew they were hedging their bet there. And then in that same offseason as well, we had 2 1-year little contracts. We have Phillip Rivers, who signed with the Colts on a 1-year, $25 million contract in the 2020 offseason. And I'm going to put him in the filled need tier. It was not a letdown whatsoever. Phillip Rivers actually balled out in Indy for that one season. He led them to the playoffs. He led them to an 11-5 record. They lost their only game in the playoffs that year. But Phillip Rivers still played pretty well that season. And obviously not as well as Kirk Cousins, who was in Minnesota a lot longer. But he still played really, really well for that 1 year he was there. And I was surprised, honestly, that he decided to just go play for another team for 1 year. I think maybe in the moment he planned on playing for longer, but I thought he was going to be a Charger for life for how long he had been there. And then we're going to skip forward 3 more years to 2023, not this past offseason, but the year before, where Jimmy G signed with the Raiders on a 3-year, $67 million contract. I didn't realize how big this contract was. Even for like today's standards, that is a big contract for a guy who I feel like was just seen as an injury-prone mid-level quarterback. And yeah, this was a complete disaster. I think I'm going to put him above Nick Foles. I think I'm going to put him below Brock Osweiler. Jimmy G was so buns last year. Not only did he play like a potato sack, but he also was taking performance-enhancing drugs, which is just absolutely ridiculous because that was some of the worst quarterback play I've ever seen. I mean, you all see that game. I want to say it was against the Lions. I could be wrong. It was a primetime game where Jimmy G just like overthrew Davante Adams like 5 times, and Davante Adams looked like he wanted to kill himself. Yeah, it was not good last year. And I think Jimmy G's on the Rams right now? I don't even know where he's at. But it was not a good signing whatsoever. I don't really know why they threw that much money at him. One of those only lasted 1 year type of deals. So obviously it's going to land in the complete disaster tier. And then this past offseason, we have 2 more free agency signings. And the first one is going to be the one that sparked the idea of this video. Kirk Cousins for the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins showed hope in that Thursday night game against the Buccaneers where he balled out. He had like 500 yards and 4 touchdowns or something like that. I mean, that was the Kirk Cousins we saw last year before he got hurt in Minnesota. But he has looked so bad the past couple games. I mean, the Falcons, the amount of talent that's on the Falcons roster and the schedule that they have had, they should be way better than 7-7. And Kirk Cousins, I think, personally has really brought them down, and I think it really showed in that Raiders game. So I understand the benching. I still think that Kirk Cousins, like if he can figure it out, can give you a better chance of success this season, especially because you are 7-7. You still have a chance to make the playoffs. You still have a chance to win games in the playoffs. Like, you have a talented roster. I don't know if throwing a rookie quarterback in there right now is really the best decision, but I do understand their choice because Kirk Cousins has been really bad. Now, I'm debating with myself in my head if I'm going to put Kirk Cousins in a letdown tier or if it's already a complete disaster. Now, what you got to remember, Kirk Cousins' contract this offseason, 4 years, $180 million. This guy has $100 million guaranteed, and he's playing like fucking Kenny Pickett out there. I don't know if I can put him in the letdown tier. I think right now this is based off of what we've seen this season, because for both these guys, Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson, we've only seen a limited sample size, obviously, compared to the other players on this list who are off of these teams. I think I'm going to have to put him in the complete disaster tier. I will put him in the front because there is still hope, but I think it's very limited, especially when even going into this season, they drafted Michael Penix, and that kind of pissed Kirk Cousins off a little bit. And it doesn't help that he's not playing well. So I think that relationship might just continue. And then obviously he just got benched. I think that relationship is just going to continue to separate. and I think this is going to be one of the worst, if not the worst, probably the worst quarterback contract of all time. I'm saying that right now, which is so disappointing because, like I said, the Falcons had so many good young players that we were hoping were going to take that next step with Kirk Cousins, but it's just not happening. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this is too early to say this? Is this too early, or is this justified? Let me know in the comments. But we still have one more quarterback to talk about, and that's going to be Russell Wilson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you know what? Right now, I'm putting him in the filled need tier. Russell Wilson is balling out in Pittsburgh. He is playing a lot better than he did in Denver. He is filling the need of quarterback for them right now. He's a safe option for them. And they got him on a 1 year, $1.2 million contract, so even cheaper than Cam Newton's contract in 2020. So I think it definitely has filled the need for Pittsburgh, and it's been a safe, cheap option for them. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think of the list? What do you guys think of me putting Kirk Cousins in the complete disaster tier? And who would you move around on here? I kind of like what I'm looking at here right now. I think this is a fair assumption for these guys, and it was kind of cool to kind of take a deep dive and look at how these guys' time turned out with these teams. Like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, obviously I knew, without even looking at like stats or anything or how they, like storylines from those years that they played. I already know their absolute success tier. But like looking at Phillip Rivers, who I must have gotten mixed up with Matt Ryan. I thought had a bad year in Indy, but he actually had a really good year. And then looking at, guys like Nick Foles, who I didn't realize was so bad on the Jaguars. It's very interesting to look at. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys would like to see a trade video looking at the biggest quarterback trades and how they panned out. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and I appreciate all the support every single day. You guys are awesome. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.